Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching Nile Cruise on Atef, and in this segment, dear viewers, the holiest season of the year has arrived. Muslims and Christians are gathering to observe the sacred events that define the faith identities. Members of the community observed Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr and Easter Sunday in Springfield through a variety of religious traditions. The religious tourism is an unexploited niche that, given the right circumstances, could yield a more significant portion of the country's tourism revenue. And in this context, dear viewers, we have with us, and we are honored to host Amr Atef, a tourism expert, to know more about the religious tourism. A very good day, sir, and it's a pleasure to always have you with us on Nile Cruise. Sir, what are Egypt's chances to occupy a leading position among religious tourism?
Well, Egypt has lots of chances to occupy a leading position among religious tourism countries, because we have lots of components when it comes to religious tourism. If we talk about Christianity, for instance, we have Coptic Cairo, the sites of Coptic Cairo, and that's a big attraction for religious tourism. And also, it's considered to be one of the sites, the World Heritage Sites of the UNESCO. I'm talking about the Hanging Church and the St. Sergius Church, one of the places where the Holy Family stayed when they came here to Egypt. So lots of people want to come and see those sites. Also, recently, Egypt had integrated the trip, or the route of the trip of the Holy Family coming to Egypt, and they also got the approval of the Vatican for this trip. So it's like 25 stops all over the country. That's the stops where Mary, Jesus, and Joseph stayed when they came to Egypt, and it's considered to be the first escaping trip in history, and the first adventurous trip in history. You know that they came and stayed in Egypt, and Egypt is the first country after the homeland of Jesus, that he ate its food and he drank its water. So it's a good promotion, and everybody all over the world want to come and see and visit those sites.
What are the elements of religious tourism in Egypt, and do you believe that religious tourism has the potential to change the image of the country?
Well, we have lots of potentials for religious tourism, and as I told you before, that the route of the Holy Family coming to Egypt, this trip is considered to be a big attraction. The other thing is also Old Cairo, the churches in Old Cairo. Also, if we're talking about Islamic tourism, since we're talking about religious tourism, and since we are in Ramadan already, we have lots of mosques. I mean, Cairo was named as the city of the 1,000 minarets. So we have lots of mosques and lots of sites. El Mu'izz Street, for instance, is considered to be a big attraction for religious tourism in Egypt. So I think Egypt had lots of components when it comes to religious tourism and also to spiritual tourism, let alone St. Catherine Monastery, let alone lots of, the St. Simon Church in the Mukattam Hills. And lots of attractions, and people come from all over the world to see it. And lots of church groups, by the way, conduct trips to Egypt, and they do also Egypt and the Holy Land. So they do Egypt and Palestine and Israel and Jordan. It's a big package trip that's conducted from America and from Europe.
Okay, anyone who has spent Ramadan or Eid al-Fitr in Egypt knows that it has a unique taste. What are the most attractive places tourists should visit during Ramadan, sir?
Well, Ramadan nights, if we can say, Ramadan nights is very famous, among all the Islamic countries, and not only among the Islamic countries. I'm surprised to know and hear from the travelers that come here, from the US of A and from Europe, that they also know about the Ramadan nights. They read about it and they know about it, and I think that's a big attraction. People go to El Mu'izz Street and spend the Ramadan nights there. They go to El Hussein and Khan El Khalili and spend, they enjoy the Egyptian cuisine and the Egyptian food. They go to those tents. The NEMIC, the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization, have a big Ramadan night tent that have, music and dervish dancing and food, and it's a big attraction, I have to say. There are lots of things.
There's a gem as well. It
The
has
gem.
a Ramadan tent.
Ramadan, I haven't. First time to hear good that we still have some time. I might would like to go and have a look at it. But anyways, the anemic, because I was just there and people were talking about it and they enjoyed it.
Okay. Ramadan is very special and has its own charm. How can it affect the visitor's trip?
Ramadan has its own charm. I mean, the thing is, people come here and want to know about Ramadan, so they want to learn about Islam and they want to know about when people fast. And from our side, we should give a good impression about Ramadan and about an Islamic state that fasts. So we should really go the extra mile and exert more effort as we are working and as we are showing our country, because this is very important. And that's a role that everybody who works in the field of tourism should act accordingly. I don't want to say that people here don't act, in Ramadan when they're fasting and no food and no water, but they still should give a good impression about Islam and about the country.
Egypt's Islamic sites attract not only Muslim tourists but also non-Muslims. Why, in your opinion, non-Muslims are attracted to these sites, sir?
Well, non-Muslims are attracted to the sites, the Islamic sites in Egypt and the religious sites, because they want to learn and they want to know. They want to know about Islam, and they want to see the mosques. And I remember the President Obama, when he came and visited Egypt, he went to Sultan Hassan Mosque. I mean, he did two archaeological sites. He went to the pyramids and the Sultan Hassan Mosque. So that gives you an impression that people want to know about Islam. They want to see the Mosque of Muhammad Ali. They want to see the traditions, because they hear about it, but it's part of the culture as an Islamic country and of course part of the Islamic world. And I think Egypt gives a good impression about Islam as a secular country. Islam here is secular. We should also correct maybe the idea and the image of Islam. People see lots of negatives maybe on TV and so on, but this is not the real Islam. Islam is a peaceful religion. Islam is a religion for humanity, and this is our role to give this good impression about the Islamic religion.
Sir, Cairo, the city of 1,000 minarets, as you mentioned, would you shed more light on the most significant mosques in Cairo?
Well, the most significant mosques in Cairo, I would say Muhammad Ali Mosque is one of the most significant mosques in Cairo, and it's on top of the hill of the Citadel. It was built in 1830, and of course by Muhammad Ali, and they also call it the Alabaster Mosque. People like it because it looks different and it's stunning, and they see the clock inside the mosque that was gifted to Egypt by Louis Philippe, the King of France, and in return he took the obelisk, which is now in the Concours Square in Paris. Also the Sultan Hassan Mosque and the Rifai Mosque are two high attractions here. El Moise Street is full of mosques. We're talking about Al Aqmar and we're talking about the Kalawon Mosque, and we're talking about lots of Ibn Tulun Mosque, if we can say. So there are lots of mosques that are high attractions, and people love to walk in and see it and take pictures and enjoy it. Also recently, travelers started to go to Al Azhar Mosque, and they read about Al Azhar Mosque and they want to go and see Al Azhar, and they have lots of stories to tell in Al Azhar Mosque. It was the first school and the oldest school and the oldest mosque maybe in this part of the world.
Okay, Egypt aims to incorporate the trip to Egypt by the Holy Family into the global religious tourism map. How far would this decision help increase the flow of pilgrims?
Sure. Well, Egypt recently started integrating the trip of the Holy Family. As I told you before, 25 stops from Egypt, and Mary, Jesus, and Joseph stayed in 25 stops, and by every place of those there is a church or a chapel or a tree or a monastery. So that's a trip. People go on the footholds of Jesus, and they just want to follow the route. So this gave a good impression, gave lots of, I would say, advertisement back home. I mean, in all the countries in America and in Europe. Imagine if you are promoting a trip and you're saying that you're going to go on a route where the Holy Family, I mean, stayed or did 2,000 years ago or so. So that's a good attraction, and also we got the approval of the Vatican on this trip, and that was a good step. This will be attracting a new kind of tourism, which is spiritual tourism, which is even more than religious tourism. It's not going to only be the Christians who will be visiting, I mean, having this tour, but will be also lots of people who are interested in the spiritual tours. So I think that's going to be an added value,
yes, of course,
to another attraction in Egypt.
And it should have happened a long time ago.
You can say that again. It's true, it should have happened a long time ago.
Okay, how can we attract new markets and open new gates for the markets we are already dealing with?
Well, we have lots of markets in Egypt. I mean, but we can, there is a suggestion of the literal tourism, for instance. That's a new attraction. We had the Cairo International Book Fair recently in Cairo, and Egypt can play a good role with this literal tourism, because let's say we have Naguib Mahfouz, and Naguib Mahfouz is a winner of the Nobel Prize. People from all over the world know Naguib Mahfouz, so we can attract. I mean, we can combine the tours to Cairo Book Fair, for instance, and we can have this literal tourism, or like literature tourism, because they would go and see the homeland where Naguib Mahfouz came from, for instance, which is, I mean, downtown Cairo. The other, I mean, that will be a good thing. Another thing is Abbas al-Aqad, for instance, who came from Aswan. So people read the books of Abbas al-Aqad, and then they can go to his homeland and visit Aswan. And we can build stories and tours and tales about those Egyptian writers. The Jacobean building, the trilogy of Mahfouz. So I think that's a good move, and that will attract new tourism. It happens. I mean, in France, for instance, you go visit the houses of the writers in Paris, and I mean, it's kind of a tour, you know. So I think that's one of the ideas. Yes.
Okay, sir, how from your own perspective is it possible to raise the awareness of Egyptians of the significance of tourism?
Raising awareness of the local community is more important than conducting the tours, because it starts from raising awareness first. We should start from the schools, and we should start from the universities, and give lectures, and to raise awareness of the local community, to protect the sites, and to make them more engaged to the sites. There are lots of people who live in archaeological sites and they have never been to those places. So it's a good, I mean, it's important to conduct them, or to make them attached to the archaeological sites, to make them feel that they are part of this site, so they can protect it and they can take care of it. Also, community engagement is important, because tourism should not only be beneficial for those who work in the field of tourism, it should also spread out and be beneficial for the local communities who live in the different sites. We have lots of archaeological sites in Egypt, and imagine people would go to the site, I mean the travelers, I'm talking the tourists, and leave the site without having any benefit, clear benefit for the local community. So we should try to engage the local community more. We should make, let's say, local restaurants. We should give them training programs. We have lots of crafts, Egyptian crafts, and so we should encourage making those handcrafts, and this way it will be a win-win situation, and this will engage people more to the sites, and they will protect it. So we won't see again any negativities of what happened in what was so called as the 25th of Jan revolution.
Sir, finally, how could we yield, wrapping up this interview, yield a more significant portion of the country's tourism revenue through religious tourism?
The country's revenue through religious tourism is considered to be a big portion or a big part of tourism in Egypt in general. The thing that makes religious tourism different and maybe I would say profitable and maybe effective is that this kind of tourism, they travel in big numbers. So church groups, they conduct tours in big numbers, and also people who come and do the pilgrimage trips, they come in big numbers. So that would help the economy, especially that lots of the stops and the sites of those 25 stops, lots of it is in rural areas. So when they come and go to these places, there'll be services, coffee shops, restaurants, hotels maybe, crafts. So that will encourage travelers to spend more nights in Egypt, and that increases the income, the local income of tourism, and at the same time it will come back to the local community. So that will be positive for the economy at the end of the day.
Mr. Amr Atef, a tourism expert, thank you very much for your informative knowledge. Thank you very much for joining us on Nile Cruise, and thank you very much, and wishing you, of course, a wonderful festival, Eid, Sham Nassim, Easter. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dear viewers, this is the segment of Nile Cruise. Stay tuned. We have more. Don't go away.